So, it was around 3,000 years ago when Jinsung and Kallavan first met. But now in present time, they collide on the battlefield once again. While within the last station, Bam regains the Black March. The dust finally settles upon this crazy battlefield. But at what cost does their freedom come at? So before we close off Season 2, let's talk about these last two arcs within the Tower of God webtoon series. Hello everyone and welcome to the Animezilia, and today we are finishing off Season 2 of the Tower of God webtoon series. With these set of arcs that show some amazing fights, some brilliant character interactions, and some stunning artwork. Props to SIU for the hard work and dedication he's put into these arcs. Truly, they were amazing. So without wasting any more time, let's talk about it. Starting off with the conflict between Jinsung and Kallavan. This interaction was crazy. I love the action and skills that were being shown, and the way the panels were structured just helped convey the connection between these two enemies. So it was around 3,000 years ago when Jinsung found Kallavan guarding the essence of bravery, giving him some words of wisdom and acting like a semi-mentor figure, guiding Kallavan to venture out, as only those who seek adventure and experience in the real world can be called brave. This whole story about the man who sealed himself within the essence of bravery, I thought did wonders for building the lore within the tower. It certainly piqued my interest and I would love to learn more moving forward. Now as for Kallavan's ideals, they were good at heart, but kind of impossible when looking at it with some logic and reasoning, as uniting everyone using his power alone is nothing more than ruling people with fear, which can't create true peace when it finally comes. And it does somewhat follow the same methods as what King Jihad has already tried to establish. The best thing, however, to come out of this encounter between the two was the amount of respect and care Jinsung holds for Bam, risking his life to stop Kallavan, who is a threat of tremendous high level, so that Kallavan wouldn't get to Bam and kill him. That flashback in where Jinsung told Bam not to say things he didn't mean, and that he only taught Bam those skills so Bam can be happy in the future. That got me. That was emotional and it was spectacular. I love learning the fact that Jinsung encouraged Bam to be happy after all of the suffering, torture and training Bam was put through. He said don't come back if you don't want to. Even seeing how at first Jinsung kind of wanted to use Bam only to get his own revenge, but then as he grew more and more affection towards Bam and spent more time with Bam, he kind of gained more respect and a fondness for his student. That I loved. I love the fact that they still built this connection. Jinsung has appeared to be like a father figure to Bam, and this just kind of confirms that. Which is again backed up with the fact that Bam's feelings are completely the same when looking at how those two characters kind of view each other. Bam has a lot of respect for Jinsung. Jinsung has a lot of hope and respect for Bam. And it's not like a pressure kind of hope. It's more of like, you know, kid, I truly think you can do wonderful things. But only do it if you want to do it yourself. The skill of Dragon and Tiger looked amazing and worked brilliantly in hyping Kallavan up more, in having him tank that attack with minimal damage. Yes, you heard me correctly. Having a hole within your stomach is but a scratch for this adversary. However, though, this clash does unfortunately end with Jinsung's capture and defeat, thanks to the overwhelming strength of Kallavan and the smarts of Machine Jihad. But not before this lovable, adorable babysitter captured the hearts and respects of us as the reader. Truly, I have grown to like this character a lot more, thanks to his past interactions and the information we learn about him over the course of these 4 arcs within the last station. While moving on to Kallavan's interactions with Bam, these interactions were intriguing as it builds up more of this character, making it very clear that he will appear within Season 3. Kallavan shows a lot of arrogance and a lot of skepticalness within these arcs, unsure as to why someone like Jinsung would lay his life on the line for someone like Bam. While always underestimating Bam at the same time, that led to his biggest mistake and his biggest failure as a squadron commander, which ultimately led to Kallavan displaying a high level of pride as well as arrogance and strength. This helps build up Kallavan in such a great way, adding more layers to the character that I honestly wasn't expecting when going into these arcs. Kallavan is a very prideful character, but slips up in being overconfident, which results in even more damage to himself because of his overconfidence and its arrogance. Which, for me as a reader, just basically shouts out, Kallavan is going to develop. Even if that development is very small, in not overestimating his adversaries just because they've got a weaker title than him, or, they seem a bit weaker, then that's still developing a character even further. So that should be interesting to see how the direction goes with Kallavan moving forward. Where on the other hand, Bam shows more vulnerability to his character, which further emphasizes the relationship between himself and his master. Bam, once he found out about the possible fate of his master and what possibly happened, as in him possibly being dead or being captured, Bam shed tears, genuine tears, crying because he was frustrated and sad that it was thanks to his own weaknesses that his master was captured or possibly killed. Bam once again blames himself for not being strong enough. This whole crying segment got me feeling sad while reading it myself. I genuinely felt sorry for Bam because he's been through so much recently, and this was just the top of the iceberg. Cherry on top, sorry, that's the phrase I was looking for. But again, it just shows just how human Bam is. No matter how powerful he becomes, Bam is still human. And that's one element to his character that I absolutely loved. Another thing that Bam introduces into this arc that I absolutely did enjoy as well was that flashback with his master when he was training, saying that he would rather die than never see Kun and Rak again. This just reinforms Bam's struggles when with Thug. It also reinforces his desire to be with his friends and to be those around him, and how he knows he needs to get stronger to save people that he cares about. And partner that up with him feeling weakness and powerlessness, it just goes to show, once more, Bam is still human. He has these emotions, no matter what crazy powers he obtains. But with the sad and emotional stuff out of the way, seeing Bam once again wield the Black March was a pleasure when reading. Not sure why the Black March looks younger, or better still, why she resembles Rachel just a tiny bit, but hey, that could be a possible theory later on down the line. Still though, Bam stabbing himself with the Black March and using his own power when fusing with the ignited needle did scare/shock me a bit, because we've seen Bam take massive hits and blows in order to gain a skill, but this was on another level, and high praise needs to go to SIU once again, because this was magnificently drawn. The entire arc was phenomenal, and props to the author for doing so. A good job. As for Bam holding his own against rankers, I really don't have a problem with this, as it was not easy for him to handle his opponents, having to use both the Thorn fragments and the Black March just to hold them back. No way does that diminish his opponents and the rankers of the Jihad army. In fact, I like the fact that these characters see the attack on regulars who are beneath them as damaging to their own sense of pride. And the fact that they failed, and if they do survive after this, this means a flame of dedication and growth in maturity could be given to them, making them more of a threat when they next encounter Bam and his team. This next encounter with Jihad's army should be intense. That being said though, I am excited even more so to see the results of Bam's training from Ivankel, as this should surely make Bam a lot stronger, both physically and mentally. Plus, he'll be gaining a plethora of skills. I'm not sure if we'll see the training itself, although most likely we'll see flashbacks and snippets over time with Ivankel. Much like we didn't see all of Jinsung's training with Bam before Bam re-entered the tower as Viole when climbing under the association of Thug. We saw that over gradually as he interacted with more and more characters. So I can see that being a similar theme when linking back and Bam remembering his training with Ivankel in Season 3. My one concern though moving forward is in regards to the training of the other members of Bam's team, as I know their main focus is getting Kun healthy and alive again, but hopefully they will not neglect and fall behind on their training in terms of power. I don't want Bam to just kind of be leading his new crew with kind of Kun coming back and still being the brain. I still want Rak and Hockney and Caesar to still grow in kind of strength, maturity, and grow as characters in general. And speaking of power, Rak, you crazy thing, what the hell was that display of skill with your rock power? After all, you could barely create a stone shield on the hidden floor. Well, I guess Shinzu does bloom in dangerous situations, and you have had time on the Hell Train to train and brush up the Shinzu skills, but blimey, that was incredible. Now that may have been cool to see, but I am more curious as to what Rak meant by those flames look familiar. I think the greatest thing though from Rak within these arcs was that speech he gave to Bam at the very end. That speech was glorious. Basically telling Bam not to be afraid of stronger enemies, and become the hunter, not the hunted. In a way, Rak's speeches do inspire Bam, and it snaps him out of his saddened state in pursuit of more strength. We often joke around with Rak, saying he's a joke, he's a comedic character. But throughout the entire series, so from Season 1 all the way up until now, Rak has had some inspiring and uplifting speeches throughout the webtoon. Showing, yes, most of the things Rak says are gibberish, but actually he is quite mature and quite wismatic at the same time, so you can't always just disregard anything that Rak says. He is actually a really good character when you actually strip down the comedic stuff and actually look at his character from a serious perspective. I know sometimes it does make it a bit difficult when he's like tiny, but at the same time, hopefully that speech gets delivered perfectly within the anime when they finally catch up. Next up though, let's talk about another character that acted goofy, but also shows maturity when it matters the most. I'm of course referring to our favourite princess, Yuri Jihad. This character was absolutely amazing. From that oops it slipped out of my hand joke to stating that people like her better because she's cuter. Yuri, you're definitely not wrong there. But in all seriousness, I wasn't expecting her to kind of hand herself in at the end. But it does make sense when looking at it with logic. Throughout this encounter, within the last station, Yuri has held and stuck to her own beliefs and convictions. But turning herself in does somewhat go against her ideas of wanting to be free. Yet, she does this act for her family, as it's her name that wouldn't get diminished, but her family would get punished for her own selfish actions. Which shows that Yuri can be mature and understanding of other people's feelings. Now I love that idea about how being a princess of Jihad should be a life full of luxury and happiness. But for Yuri, it's a lot of pressure. Pressure that she did not ask for at such a young age. She doesn't want to be a person who blindly follows orders and does things without even thinking it through. She wishes to continue destroying things. That was something she was good at, making her goals to destroy the strict rules placed on the princesses of Jihad. For example, not being able to marry or love someone else. Thus, returning to the theme of the series in being change. As a side note though, young Yuri Jihad is freaking adorable, and that whole segment with her was so funny, especially when talking to the elder or her granny, and the granny was like, just leave the similarities about me out of this, please. But yeah, honestly, I loved Yuri's interactions here, and it just shows how mature she is and how kind of fun and lively she is, but at the same time, she can be serious when it matters most. It was a little bit of character building for her, but at the same time, we already knew most of this information, but it just helps reinforce it and reminds us that Yuri is such a good but also complex character, but at the basis of it, she can be quite simple. You know what I mean? Yeah, hopefully you do. Now it's time for some Rachel discussion. And before you click off, we just need to discuss those 3 wishes. That's all I'm going to talk about. But what could Gustang possibly give to Rachel as of those 3 wishes? Knowing Rachel, it has something to do with power and involving herself becoming somewhat more important within the story / the tower. I love that throughout this encounter with Gustang, the use of the word vermin was used when addressing Rachel and her group. That word just fits her perfectly. But did Traveller actually teleport with them? Or is he still locked up and the threat of death is still hanging over his head? Not quite sure, because we just didn't see him in the panel when it showed Rachel and Yuha landing on Gustang's ship, so I'm a bit concerned about him. If someone can clear that up, then that would be great in the comments down below. Nevertheless though, I really don't have much to add about Rachel's involvement here, as it was short like it's meant to be. However, it could have some massive implications and impact on the plot moving forward, heading into season 3. Because those wishes could mean anything. Gustang has a lot of influence and a lot of power, so he could practically do anything she asks for. Now seeing the owner of the 44th floor was surprising but really cool nevertheless, as we learned that she is from the Kuhn family, and her design was really intriguing. Speaking of interesting though, the design for Caesar when she came back, rocking a new blue outfit, and I could not be happier. Hopefully she sticks around for more, as she is now climbing the tower once again, and save Rack and Co from a bomb threat. But I just love her design, I love the fact she's back into the story, and I do want to see her interact with more characters moving forward. So please, keep her intertwined with the plot. I beg you. Now Misheni Jihad is one crazy lady, taking Jinsung hostage in order to use him as bait for later on. That's just a recipe for disaster in my opinion, but a massive power play nevertheless. Her goal of wanting change within a tower, but knows that she needs more bloodshed to be spilt in order to do so. She now knows as well that one important key to fulfilling her goals is the irregular Jinsung was babysitting, and the one he was so fond of. That's right, it's Bam. That revelation sent chills down my spine, as at this point, the only goal that I could possibly think of that Misheni could possibly have is that obviously she wants to collect the 13-month weapons and go beyond the floor that Jihad started at. But now, with her actions and her dialogue within this arc, it makes it seem like there's a lot more intricate kind of details going into this, and something bigger is at play here. I know there was talks a few arcs ago about a war between princesses happening and Misheni's involvement within that, so hopefully that gets intertwined with it too, that gets expanded on soon, and we learn more and more about other things as well. Because we've got a battle with Yuri Jihad and Misheni, with the 13-month weapons on the line coming soon. Well, obviously the Green April and whatever Misheni has at the moment. As well as the fact is we've got that impending war between princesses, and we've got Masheni Jihad setting her plan into motion. All of this has to come to a grinding halt and be revealed soon, so that revelation, I'm hoping, comes thick and fast, but also amazing. Now, another part of me was wondering, how does Bam come into this plan of Masheni? Does she want Bam to find out about the fact that she's holding his master hostage, and ultimately meaning that Bam would have to get stronger and fight the army once again, this time weakening the army even more so, making her goal to achieve a lot easier. Because obviously Bam would get stronger, Bam would take out some influential, powerful people within Jihad's army and just make the ranks a lot more thinner, more diluted, thus allowing Masheni Jihad to move around a lot more easier and achieve her goals in a much more fashionable way. Honestly, I have no idea at this point, but I'm super intrigued to find out moving forward. Maybe all of those ancient books that she's been reading have finally made her crack and delusional. But I guess we're going to find out soon. Lastly though, there's talk about Kuraka, as his character development was massive throughout these arcs. He now holds a small amount of fondness for Bam, which to me just came out of nowhere, but honestly I don't mind it. And it's most likely due to the fact that his master sees something within Bam and chose Bam over himself as the most important one to save when trying to fend off Kallavan's advance towards the last station. I don't even know if Jinsung knew that Kuraka was at the last station. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but that's besides the point. Kuraka knew that Kallavan was fixated on Bam because Jinsung, his master, was fixated on saving Bam's life. So this, of course, inspired Kuraka to help Bam out for the time being. And now with these two, Bam and Kuraka, having the same goal in wanting to rescue their master, I can see a team up happening within the future, and that team up, again, just seems like it's a really cool thing to see, and let's see how they proceed with that moving forward, because Kuraka knows he's going to need some more allies when going to save his master. And Kuraka does also seem to be looking to become a mentor, as he's acting differently now towards Wangnam, guiding him onto the correct path, extending a helping hand in possibly maturing Wangnam, making him a bit more stronger in the process. Seeing him full of pride as he wanted to avenge his master for what the forces of Jihad did to him in capturing him and putting him near death's door, as well as staying calm within the heat of battle even after obtaining all of this new information, shows a high level of combat experience and mental experience from Kuraka's character. As he's been travelling up the tower for a while now, he's a member of Thug, he's a slayer, so you would expect this, but it's still a great characteristic to see on panel and paper. We finally got to see Kuraka's heart in the last arc, but now it seems like he's opening it up a little bit more to those around him. Not literally, because that would be dangerous, but more metaphorically, in kind of accepting things as they are and putting his faith in someone else other than his own abilities. This isn't massive character development, then I do not know what is. Overall, this was a magnificent way to end off Season 2. High energy, high stakes, beautiful artwork, and the feeling like this is only the tip of the iceberg, as war is still upon the horizon, and what lays in wait for our heroes, I honestly can't wait to see. Characters are getting stronger, people are coming back, new alliances are going to be created. What more is there to come? Hopefully you'll join me for my adventures up the tower even further by hitting that subscribe button, and of course like the video if you did, because I do hope you've enjoyed this review. And please comment your thoughts down below. What did you think of the last station and the ending of this arc in general? What do you think we're going to see moving forward? But please, no spoilers, as I wouldn't want to ruin it for myself or anyone else that hasn't caught up yet. I thought it was awesome, just like you are who's watching this video, but above all else, have a great day, and I'll see you real soon. Alligator, matane, goodbye.